Say what, City? Come again? Oh, my money? You're trying to rob me? Oh, I'm sorry, youngin'. I don't have any money on me. All I have is this cane.
Here, you little scoundrel. This is made by Hanwei and sold as a Shirasaya, which, in my opinion, is more accurately referred to as Shikomizue. First off, what is a Shirasaya and what's the point of it? Well, it's really just storage for a sword blade. It's not lacquered, the scabbard, I mean, so it doesn't trap and retain moisture. The wood can kind of breathe. And without a tsuba, the guard, or any other hardware, you can make the fit much tighter, so it's less likely to let in moisture to begin with. So this way you can store the blade for longer without having to worry about it rusting. A Shikomizue, on the other hand, is not just for storing, but also actually using the blade as a sword, or rather a sword stick or a cane. They were made to look like a walking stick. This doesn't do a great job at that. In fact, this is not actual bamboo, by the way. It's just carved and painted to look like it. Historically, these could take different forms. There were straight ones, like what the fictional blind swordsman Zatoichi uses, and curved ones. In fact, some look like they're recurved because they follow the curvature of the blade for a bit, and then they extend beyond it and curve in the opposite direction to kind of obscure what's inside and make it more inconspicuous. There's some remarkably convincing examples that can easily pass as a walking stick. And overall, even though there are some curved examples, it seems the majority is straight, which makes sense because a straight walking stick is more practical. The Shikomizue became particularly popular during the Meiji period, 1868 to 1912, when Japan underwent modernization and the wearing of swords was prohibited. But of course, humans are always remarkably creative in figuring out how to impede each other's ability to live. If you prohibit weapons or the wearing of them, people will just find ways to hide them better. In this case, you can tell it's a Shikomizue rather than a Shirasaya by this button here, which ironically doesn't seem to be present on historical originals. This is the lock, so you have to push this in to be able to draw it. If you don't, it's in there. The pictures of original Shikomizue that I've seen all do not have this. They have the pin that secures the blade in there, but they don't have the button. If you know of any examples that have this, let us know in the comments. So if this is a feature that the originals didn't even have, why on earth would I say this? Well, because it shows me that this is intended as a sword cane, so for actual use rather than storage. Along with the overall appearance, they try to make it look like bamboo. It's not convincing at all, but an attempt was made. Original Shikomizue are way more convincing concealed weapons, but it's still enough to signal intention in the design. This kind of lock is typical for European-style sword canes, and it has some advantages, but also a significant downside. So the good thing is, it's secure this way. You can even strike with it more effectively with either end, and you don't have to worry about the sword flying out and losing it, and also you don't have to worry about accidentally being disarmed. So if somebody tries to take the cane from you, they don't even know that there's a blade in there, but they get a hold of it and pull on it and suddenly it comes out. It's a bit of an issue. Like if you hold onto the scabbard and somebody pulls on there, they would get it when if this was a solid stick, you would still have control over it. It's added security, but at a price, because now there's an additional step. Rather than just pulling on it and having it available, you have to hit this button and get it out. And sometimes you might hit the pin first instead of the button. So in the heat of the moment, sudden stress, oh crap, you have to defend yourself. You may not hit this, you may hit that and then wonder, why doesn't it come out? You know, there's just something that requires a little bit of manual dexterity, which of course drops when you have an adrenaline spike. So that's the main drawback. And that's why I'm assuming they didn't do these usually. The ability to use this as a fighting stick is quite important, because if you're pretending it's just a cane because you've got a bad knee or whatever, and then suddenly you're being attacked, you need it, it takes longer to draw it than it does to just hit with it, because normally it would be 1, 2, 3. Because if you're actually supporting your weight on it or even just pretending to, you would have the hand up here rather than there. That would be awkward. So if you suddenly need to defend yourself, you may just have to start swinging and then draw it whenever you can. Or even if you have a brief moment of feeling something's not right, you might move the hand down and then just give it a quick tug, and that might be enough to free it, and then you can just get it out of the scabbard and just let it drop. Seki Sensei has a great demonstration of some techniques that would be used with a Shikomizue that involve jamming the stick into the opponent's arms to prevent the sword from coming down on a cut, or to prevent it from being drawn in the first place, and to push the enemy away and then draw the blade, which makes a lot of sense. It also works better than a regular stick for defending. If all you can do is just bring it up and block with it like this, you can do that with a regular stick, because reality is not like the movies where swords just cleanly and effortlessly slice through hardwood staves in one go. So you would still be able to do that, but there's going to be some damage, and there's just additional safety here, because even if the sword cuts through the scabbard, it's going to hit the blade and be stopped. So it's just safer that way. It also adds a little bit more weight, so it gives it additional heft when you're striking with it. Okay, so if you're a sword nerd thinking about the pros and cons of different designs, and you look at this, you might be like, what? Why would you do that? This is horrible compared to a regular katana. The lack of a guard is a significant risk. Not only does it not protect your hand against the opponent's blade, it doesn't even protect it from your own. It makes you very reluctant to thrust particularly vigorously, because the hand can now slide up. On originals, there's no physical barrier that would prevent your hand from riding up there and getting injured, because that would give it away. You have to make it look as much like a harmless stick or cane as you can. So that's not an option. The same way as with a wrap. So there's nothing that gives you a whole lot of traction here unless the stick is designed in such a way, which makes sense. It's definitely justifiable to put something on a walking stick to give you a better grip, be it some kind of knurling or texturing. This here is completely smooth, and worse, it's lacquered, which enhances the smoothness even more. So you really have to watch your hands here. This didn't end up as much of a problem when cutting with it as I expected. I was fully expecting this to be very slippery, but it's not actually that bad. One thing that helps a little bit with that is hard to show on camera, which is there's a little bit of a groove here. Kind of similar to a Kriegsmesser, only on one side though. So where the fingertips of your main hand rest mainly. That also seems to help a little bit. Now, this is under ideal circumstances, dry. If you have somewhat wet hands, it might be quite slippery indeed. So compared to a regular katana, this is worse in every regard, right? Well, not every. For one, it's even easier to carry. Not that you would normally carry it like this, because once again, that gives it away. But if you were to, this would be even easier, because you do not have a tsuba that pokes you in the side. It's very, very easy to carry around. You can lay it down flat much more easily. It's just less obtrusive. It's just a stick. You could say, well, it lacks important features and it's just objectively worse than a regular katana, right? But for the intended purpose, it does exactly what it's supposed to. So you can't really criticize it for that. It has downsides, of course, but those are acceptable for what it's supposed to do. Again, especially when wearing a sword is prohibited and you still wanted to protect yourself, what else are you going to do? I mean, you couldn't just carry a regular stick, but this is stick plus. Nobody knows you have a blade in there. No swords are not allowed here? Oh yeah, okay, fine, but you wouldn't take a walking stick away from a man with a bad knee now, would you? You might either get the jump on someone or have a chance to respond if they ambush you. Personally, I like sword canes. Yes, they're devious, but you have to appreciate the sheer stubbornness. And some of them are really quite impressive craftsmanship, art pieces, really. There's a lot to be said about them, even if they're a worse sword overall. I hope you found this interesting. Thanks for watching, and take care, folks. Stay safe. Be suspicious of sticks, I suppose.